Lucky American coins, writing a variant equals document, ID equals 58321, the 1976 United States 1-cent coin is one of the most fascinating modern Lincoln cents for collectors, not because every example is rare or extremely valuable, but because it was produced during one of the most historically significant years in American history. The year 1976 marked the 200th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, and the entire nation was celebrating the American bicentennial. During this remarkable year, millions of Americans participated in parades, exhibitions, historical celebrations, and patriotic events. Special bicentennial designs appeared on several U.S. coins, including the quarter, half-dollar, and dollar, while the Lincoln cent continued with its familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln and the Lincoln Memorial. This makes the 1976 Lincoln cent an interesting combination of everyday American money and an important moment in national history. Before going deeper into the possibility of errors and unusual varieties, it is important to understand exactly what the 1976 Lincoln cent is and what a normal example should look like. The coin has a denomination of 1 cent, meaning that its face value is 1/100th of a United States dollar. Americans commonly call it a penny, although the official denomination is 1 cent. The coin features Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Lincoln's portrait has appeared on the cent since 1909, making the series one of the longest-running designs in American coinage history. A standard 1976 Lincoln cent has a diameter of approximately 19.05 millimeters and a standard weight of approximately 3.11 grams. The coin has a plain edge rather than the reeded edge seen on many other American denominations. The composition of the regular 1976 cent is primarily copper, with approximately 95% copper and 5% zinc. This composition is important because the U.S. Mint later changed the cent to a copper-plated zinc composition in 1982. Therefore, the 1976 cent belongs to the final generation of regular circulation Lincoln cents, made with the traditional bronze alloy. When examining one of these coins, the first thing most people notice is Abraham Lincoln's portrait. Lincoln faces toward the right, and his image occupies most of the obverse. Above his portrait is the inscription, "In God We Trust." To the left of the portrait is the word liberty, while the date 1976 appears to the right. Depending on where the coin was struck, there may also be a mint mark below the date. The absence or presence of a mint mark is an important part of identifying a 1976 Lincoln cent. A coin with no mint mark was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. A coin with a small d beneath the date was produced at the Denver Mint. A coin with an S mint mark was produced at the San Francisco Mint, primarily for proof sets. These distinctions can be important when evaluating a collection, although a mint mark, by itself, does not automatically make a 1976 cent rare or extremely valuable. The reverse of the coin features the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. Above the memorial is the motto E pluribus unum, which translates from Latin as out of many, one. Around the design are the words United States of America, while 1 cent appears prominently below the building. The Lincoln Memorial reverse was introduced in 1959 to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It remained in use until 2008, making the 1976 cent part of a very long and familiar chapter in American coinage. One of the most interesting things about the 1976 cent is the historical environment in which it was created. In 1976, the United States was celebrating 200 years since the signing and adoption of the Declaration of Independence. The year was filled with patriotic imagery, historical references, and celebrations of America's founding. The U.S. Mint responded with special commemorative circulating designs for several denominations. The quarter received a reverse showing a colonial drummer. The half-dollar featured Independence Hall. The dollar featured a design incorporating the Liberty Bell and the moon. These special coins carried the dual date 1776 to 1976, connecting the nation's founding year with the bicentennial celebration. The Lincoln cent was different. It did not receive a special bicentennial reverse. Instead, the regular Lincoln memorial design continued to appear on cents struck in 1976. This is an important detail because many people mistakenly believe that every coin produced in 1976 was a bicentennial coin. In reality, the special bicentennial treatment was limited to specific denominations. The 1976 cent therefore became a quiet participant in one of America's biggest celebrations. While other coins displayed special patriotic designs, the Lincoln cent continued to show the familiar face of Abraham Lincoln. This contrast gives the coin a unique place in the history of the bicentennial period. The date itself is now historically significant. A 1976 cent is approximately 50 years old as of 2026. While 50 years is not enough to make a coin automatically rare, it does mean that the coin has survived half a century since its original production. Millions of examples remain in existence, but the condition of individual coins can vary dramatically. Some 1976 cents spent decades in circulation. They may have been carried in pockets, placed in cash registers, dropped on sidewalks, stored in drawers, or exposed to moisture and chemicals. Other examples were removed from circulation almost immediately and placed into collections. These coins may still have bright original luster and sharp details. This difference in condition can have a significant effect on value. Coin collectors carefully evaluate the preservation of a coin. A heavily circulated example with scratches, dents, and worn details may be worth only its face value or a small premium. A pristine uncirculated example can be more desirable. A high-grade coin with exceptional color and surfaces may attract even greater interest. The same principle becomes even more important when dealing with errors. A common 1976 cent with an unusual error may be worth considerably more than a normal example, but the exact value depends on the type of error. A dramatic, rare, and authenticated error can be highly desirable, while a minor error may bring only a small premium. This is where the phrase, 1976 penny worth $268 million, enters the discussion. Such claims have appeared in online videos, social media posts, and sensational articles. However, there is no credible documented evidence that a normal 1976 Lincoln cent, even one described simply as an error penny, has a confirmed market value of $268 million. This distinction is extremely important. A viral claim is not the same thing as a verified auction result. A seller can place any price on an online listing, but that does not mean someone has actually paid that amount. The true market value of a coin is established through documented transactions, professional authentication, and collector demand. A $268 million sale involving a 1976 Lincoln cent would be an extraordinary event. It would almost certainly be widely reported by major numismatic organizations, auction houses, and professional grading services. There is no established record of such a sale. Therefore, anyone discussing the supposed $268 million value should make it clear that the number is an unverified or exaggerated claim rather than an established market price. This does not mean that 1976 error cents are worthless. In fact, genuine errors can be fascinating and valuable. The key is identifying the exact error and determining whether it was created at the United States Mint. A true mint error occurs during the coin manufacturing process. The U.S. Mint produces billions of coins, and although the manufacturing process is highly controlled, mistakes can occasionally happen. These mistakes may occur when blanks are produced, when planchets are prepared, when coins are fed into presses, or when dies strike the planchets. The term planchette refers to the prepared piece of metal that becomes a coin after being struck. Before striking, the metal is cut into blanks. These blanks are processed to create the correct shape and writing a variant equals document, ID equals 74106. The deeper you look into the 1976 Lincoln cent, the more fascinating the story becomes, because the coin exists at the intersection of American history, industrial manufacturing, economics, and the world of numismatics. At first glance, it is simply a 1-cent piece. It is small, familiar, and easy to overlook. But when you begin examining its details, you discover that every part of the coin has a purpose, from the metal used to make it, to the pressure applied by the coin press, to the position of the dies, to the tiny mint mark that identifies where it was produced. When a mistake happens at any stage of that process, the result can be a coin that collectors may consider much more interesting than an ordinary example. The year 1976 is especially memorable because the United States was celebrating its bicentennial. 200 years had passed since the Declaration of Independence, and the country was immersed in patriotic celebrations. The number 1776 appeared everywhere, paired with 1976 to create the famous dual-date bicentennial inscription. Special coins were produced for the quarter, half-dollar, and dollar, and these coins became some of the most recognizable pieces of American circulating commemorative coinage. The Lincoln cent, however, remained unchanged in its basic design. This makes the 1976 penny an interesting contrast to the special bicentennial coins. While Americans were carrying quarters with colonial drummers and half-dollars depicting Independence Hall, the 1-cent coin continued to show the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln and the Lincoln Memorial. This continuity was significant. The Lincoln cent had become a part of everyday American life. People used it to make purchases, received it as change, placed it in jars, and sometimes forgot about it for decades. The coin was not designed as a special commemorative piece, yet it was produced during a year that would become one of the most celebrated anniversaries in American history. The obverse design of the coin continues the tradition established in 1909. Abraham Lincoln's portrait faces right, and his appearance is instantly recognizable. Above him is the phrase "In God We Trust," while liberty appears on the left and the date 1976 on the right. The mint mark, if present, appears beneath the date. The reverse displays the Lincoln Memorial. This design had been introduced in 1959, replacing the famous wheat ears that had appeared on Lincoln cents since 1909. The Lincoln Memorial was selected to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. It remained on the cent for almost 50 years. The Lincoln Memorial reverse has a special place in numismatic history because of the tiny details hidden within the design. On high-quality examples, collectors may examine the building's columns, steps, and architectural details. The initials of designer Frank Gasparo can also be found on the reverse near the lower right side of the memorial. These details may be difficult to see without magnification, but they demonstrate how much information is packed into such a small object. The phrase "E pluribus unum" appears above the Lincoln Memorial. The words are Latin for "out of many, one," a phrase associated with the idea of unity. United States of America surrounds the upper part of the reverse, while 1 cent identifies the denomination. These inscriptions are more than decorative elements. They communicate the identity of the coin and the nation that produced it. Every time someone holds a 1976 Lincoln cent, they are holding a small representation of the United States during a historic period. The standard weight of the 1976 cent is approximately 3.11 grams. The diameter is approximately 19.05 millimeters. The edge is plain. The composition is approximately 95% copper and 5% zinc. These specifications provide a baseline for collectors. If you discover a 1976 cent that weighs approximately 3.11 grams, has the expected diameter, and shows the normal copper color and design, there is nothing unusual about those characteristics by themselves. However, if the coin has a significantly different weight, unusual dimensions, or an unexpected metal composition, further investigation may be worthwhile. One of the most exciting possibilities is a wrong planchette error. To understand this, it is helpful to understand how coins are made. The U.S. Mint begins with large sheets or strips of metal. Blanks are punched from the material, and these blanks are processed into planches. The planches are then fed into presses where dies strike them with tremendous force. The dies carry the designs of the coin. The process is highly automated and carefully controlled, but manufacturing systems can occasionally produce errors. If a planchette intended for one denomination enters the wrong press, a coin can be struck with the wrong design for the metal blank. For example, imagine a Lincoln cent design struck on a planchette intended for another denomination. The resulting coin might be thinner, thicker, larger, smaller, heavier, or lighter than a normal cent. The design might not fit perfectly within the planchette's surface. Such a coin could be extremely interesting. But it is essential to understand that not every lightweight, or silver-colored 1976 cent is a wrong planchette error. Many coins have been altered after leaving the mint. Some may have been plated with another metal. Others may have been chemically treated. Some may have been damaged or exposed to environmental conditions. Professional examination is the safest way to determine whether a suspected wrong planchette coin is genuine. Collectors can begin with simple measurements. A precise digital scale can determine the weight. Calipers can measure the diameter and thickness. The edge can be examined for unusual characteristics. The color and surface can be studied under magnification. However, amateur tests should be considered preliminary. A professional grading service can use advanced techniques to determine composition and authenticity without damaging the coin. The possibility of a rare wrong planchette error is one reason some collectors carefully examine old cents. A coin that looks unusual may deserve attention, but the key is evidence. Another category that can create dramatic appearances is the off-center strike. When a coin is struck, the planchette must be positioned correctly between the obverse and reverse dies. A collar usually helps contain the planchette and maintain its proper shape. If the planchette is not correctly positioned, the strike may occur away from the center. The result can be dramatic. One side of the coin may show a large blank area where the design is missing. The opposite side may show the design shifted toward the edge. The coin may appear crescent-shaped or unusually positioned. The degree of the off-center error is important. A coin that is only slightly off-center may not be particularly valuable. A coin that is dramatically off-center can be much more desirable. The date also matters. If the date 1976 remains fully visible, collectors can immediately identify the coin. If the date is partially missing, identification may become more difficult. A dramatic error with a visible date can therefore attract strong interest. The value of such a coin is not determined by a fixed price list. Instead, collectors consider the percentage of the off-center strike, the condition, the visibility of the date, and comparable sales of similar errors. A 1976 cent with a 5% off-center strike might not be worth a huge amount. A 50% or more off-center example could be considerably more interesting. An especially dramatic example that retains the date and shows strong separation from the normal design could potentially command a significant premium. But again, the exact value depends on the marketplace. Another fascinating error is the broad strike. Normally, the collar surrounds the planchette during striking. The collar helps control the shape and diameter of the finished coin. If the collar fails or is not properly engaged, the metal can spread outward when struck. This creates a broad-struck coin. The resulting coin may have an expanded diameter and a flatter appearance. The design may look stretched, and the rim may be different from that of a normal cent. Broad strikes are generally easy to recognize once a collector knows what to look for. However, damage can sometimes create similar appearances. A coin that was flattened after leaving the mint might look unusual, but its metal flow and design characteristics: writing a variant equals document, ID equals 31647. The story of the 1976 Lincoln cent becomes even more fascinating when we move beyond the basic facts of weight, composition, design, and history and begin to examine the actual world of error collecting. Error coins occupy a special place in numismatics because they represent moments when the highly controlled process of coin production did not go exactly as planned. Every day, enormous numbers of coins are produced, and the vast majority leave the mint looking almost exactly as intended. But occasionally, something unusual happens. A planchette may enter the press incorrectly. A die may crack. A collar may fail. A piece of metal may be struck in an unexpected way. When such an event creates a coin that escapes the mint and reaches the public, collectors may later discover it and recognize that it is different from an ordinary example. This is one of the reasons collectors continue to search through old collections and accumulated change. The possibility of finding something unusual creates excitement. The person looking at a 1976 cent may initially see nothing more than an old copper-colored coin. But under magnification, the collector may notice something unusual around the date, lettering, rim, or edge. The coin may then become the subject of careful research. The first and most important step is always authentication. A coin cannot be considered a valuable error simply because it looks strange. The unusual appearance must be consistent with a known mint production process. This is particularly important because coins can be damaged in countless ways after they leave the mint. Imagine a 1976 cent that has a large dent near the edge. Someone might believe that the coin was struck incorrectly. But if the metal is pushed inward rather than flowing naturally during the original strike, the damage may have happened later. A coin dropped onto a hard surface can develop dents. A coin run over by a vehicle can become flattened. A coin placed in machinery can be bent or distorted. These events may create unusual appearances, but they do not necessarily make the coin collectible as a mint error. The difference between damage and a genuine error is one of the most important concepts in the hobby. A genuine error originates during the production of the coin. Damage happens afterward. This distinction may sound simple, but it can sometimes be surprisingly difficult to determine. Professional error specialists often examine the coin's metal flow, strike characteristics, edge, surface texture, and relationship between the design elements. They may compare the coin with known examples and study whether the appearance could have been produced by the mint's manufacturing equipment. For collectors of 1976 Lincoln cents, the first thing to understand is what a normal coin should look like. The more familiar you become with normal coins, the easier it becomes to recognize unusual ones. The normal 1976 cent has a round shape, a diameter of approximately 19.05 millimeters, a weight of approximately 3.11 grams, and a plain edge. It is made primarily of copper, giving it the traditional reddish-brown appearance associated with older Lincoln cents. The obverse shows Abraham Lincoln, while the reverse shows the Lincoln Memorial. The coin should have a well-defined rim, although the exact strength of the rim can vary depending on the quality of the strike and the condition of the coin. The date 1976 should appear clearly on the obverse. On a Denver issue, a small D mint mark appears below the date. Philadelphia coins have no mint mark. San Francisco proof coins have an S mint mark. Once these basics are understood, the collector can begin examining possible errors. One of the most dramatic possibilities is a major off-center strike. Imagine a 1976 cent where Lincoln's portrait appears far to one side, leaving a large crescent-shaped area of blank metal on the opposite side. This is immediately noticeable. The coin may look as though the design was printed incorrectly, but the actual process is different. The planchette was positioned incorrectly when the dies struck it. The amount of off-center displacement can vary greatly. A slight shift may be only a few percent. A dramatic error may be displaced by a quarter of the coin's diameter or more. The most desirable examples often combine a dramatic visual appearance with a fully visible date. The reason the date matters is simple. Collectors want to know exactly what they are looking at. A 1976 off-center cent with the full date can be immediately identified. If the date is missing, the coin may be difficult to attribute without additional evidence. This is one reason why two visually similar off-center errors can have different values. The first may have a spectacular 60% displacement with the date fully visible. The second may have a similar displacement, but the date is missing. Collectors may prefer the first example because it provides clearer identification. Condition also matters. An error coin that is heavily scratched, corroded, or damaged may be less desirable than a cleaner example. However, error collectors sometimes accept lower grades because the error itself is the main attraction. This creates an interesting difference between traditional collectors and error collectors. A traditional Lincoln cent collector may focus heavily on grade. An error collector may care more about the size and dramatic nature of the error. A high-grade normal cent can be attractive. A lower-grade coin with a spectacular mint error can also be extremely interesting. The two markets overlap, but they are not identical. Another major category is the broad strike. A normal coin is struck while contained within a collar. The collar helps define the coin's diameter and shape. If the collar is absent or malfunctioning, the planchette can spread outward during striking. The result is a broad-struck coin. The coin may have an expanded diameter. The design may appear stretched. The rim may be missing or incomplete. The overall appearance can be dramatically different from a normal cent. A genuine broad strike is valuable because it documents a specific failure in the striking process. The value of a broad-struck 1976 cent depends on the severity of the error and the condition of the coin. A minor broad strike may bring a modest premium. A dramatic example may attract greater attention. Collectors also examine the shape of the coin. If the coin is unusually wide, but still retains strong design details, it may be particularly appealing. Another related error involves the collar. The collar is an important part of the striking mechanism. It helps contain the planchette and control its shape. If the planchette becomes trapped partially inside the collar, a partial collar error may occur. These coins can develop an unusual edge appearance. Collectors sometimes describe one type of partial collar error as having a railroad rim. The edge can look like a raised track running around part of the coin. A genuine railroad rim effect can be fascinating. However, the collector must distinguish it from damage caused by squeezing or bending. A coin that has been forced through a machine may develop a strange edge, but the deformation will usually not match the characteristics of a genuine partial collar error. The edge of the coin is therefore extremely important. Many beginners focus only on the front and back. Experienced collectors examine the entire coin. They look at the obverse. They look at the reverse. They inspect the edge. They weigh the coin. They measure the diameter. They examine the surface. The edge can sometimes provide evidence that is invisible on the main faces. This is especially true with wrong planchette errors. Suppose a 1976 Lincoln cent was accidentally struck on a planchette intended for another denomination. The edge might have characteristics that differ from a normal cent. The thickness might also be unusual. A wrong planchette error is one of the most exciting possibilities because the coin is fundamentally made from the wrong piece of metal. However, these errors are also among the most difficult to authenticate. A person could deliberately alter a coin. For example, someone might plate a cent with another metal. Someone might shave the edge. Someone might alter the weight. Someone might manipulate the surface. Professional testing is therefore essential when a wrong planchet error is suspected. One of the most famous types of coin errors in American numismatics involves cents struck on planchets in 10, writing a variant equals document, ID equals 92754. As we reach the final part of the story of the 1976 United States 1-cent coin, it is important to bring together everything that makes this small piece of copper so fascinating. The 1976 Lincoln cent is not simply an old penny that has survived for decades. It is a coin connected to one of the most important anniversaries in American history, a coin produced during the celebration of the nation's bicentennial, a coin that represents the final years of the traditional bronze composition, and a coin that can become significantly more interesting when a genuine mint error or unusual variety is discovered. The first thing every collector should remember is that the ordinary 1976 Lincoln cent is not automatically a rare or extremely valuable coin. Millions were produced, and many examples still exist. A normal circulated coin may be worth little more than its face value, while uncirculated and high-grade examples can bring premiums depending on condition, color, mint mark, and collector demand. The real opportunity for greater value comes when a coin has something genuinely unusual, such as a dramatic off-center strike, a clipped planchet, a broad strike, a major die break, a legitimate double die variety, a wrong planchet error, or another authenticated mint mistake. The phrase 1976 penny worth $268 million is a claim that has attracted attention online, but it should not be treated as a confirmed market fact. There is no credible evidence establishing a 1976 Lincoln cent as having a verified market value of $268 million. A number appearing in an online listing or sensational article does not prove that a coin has sold for that amount. Real market value is established by actual transactions, professional authentication, documented auction results, and collector demand. This distinction is essential for anyone interested in coin collecting. An asking price is not the same as a selling price. A claim is not the same as evidence. A damaged coin is not automatically a mint error. An unusual appearance is not automatically a rare variety. And an old coin is not automatically valuable simply because of its age. The real value of the 1976 Lincoln cent is found by examining the individual coin carefully and objectively. A collector who discovers a 1976 cent should begin by identifying its basic characteristics. The coin has a face value of 1 cent. It has a standard diameter of approximately 19.05 millimeters, and a standard weight of approximately 3.11 grams. It is composed primarily of copper, approximately 95% copper and 5% zinc, and has a plain edge. The obverse features Abraham Lincoln, who faces toward the right. Above Lincoln's portrait is "I in God we trust." The word liberty appears to the left of his portrait, while the date 1976 appears to the right. Depending on the mint of origin, the coin may have no mint mark, a D mint mark, or an S mint mark. The reverse shows the Lincoln Memorial, with E pluribus unum above it and United States of America around the design. 1 cent appears below the memorial. These details are important because they establish the normal appearance of the coin. The absence of a mint mark on a 1976 cent does not automatically indicate an error. Philadelphia cents were intentionally produced without a mint mark. AD indicates production at Denver, while an S generally identifies a San Francisco proof issue. Understanding this simple fact can prevent many collectors from believing that an ordinary coin is rare. The same principle applies to the date. The number 1976 is historically significant because it represents the year of America's bicentennial celebration. However, the date itself does not make the cent extremely rare. The historical importance of the year does make the coin interesting. During 1976, the United States celebrated 2 centuries since the Declaration of Independence. The entire country participated in celebrations, ceremonies, exhibitions, parades, and patriotic events. The U.S. Mint produced special bicentennial designs for the quarter, half dollar, and dollar, featuring the dual date 1776 to 1976. The Lincoln cent did not receive one of these special bicentennial designs. Instead, it continued with the Lincoln Memorial reverse. This is an important detail that collectors should remember. The 1976 Lincoln cent is therefore not itself a special bicentennial commemorative coin, but it was produced during the bicentennial year and remains connected to that historic period. This connection gives the coin additional historical interest. When you hold a 1976 Lincoln cent, you are holding a coin that was produced at a time when Americans were celebrating the 200th anniversary of their nation's founding. The coin circulated through stores, homes, banks, schools, and businesses while the country celebrated its history. Some of these coins may have been carried by people attending bicentennial events. Others may have been placed in savings jars. Some may have been stored in collections. Many simply disappeared into circulation. Today, half a century later, collectors are rediscovering them. The coin also represents an important period in the history of American coin composition. For decades, Lincoln cents had been produced primarily from a copper-rich alloy. By the early 1980s, rising copper prices and production costs contributed to a change in composition. In 1982, the U.S. Mint began transitioning the cent to copper-plated zinc. The 1976 cent therefore belongs to the final era of traditional bronze Lincoln cents. This fact makes the coin historically interesting even when no era is present. Collectors can also examine the coin's color. A freshly struck copper cent can have a bright reddish appearance. Over time, exposure to air and the environment can cause the surface to darken. Coins may develop red, red-brown, or brown coloration. Professional grading services may assign color designations to copper cents. High-grade examples with strong original red color can be more desirable than heavily toned or circulated pieces. However, collectors should be careful not to confuse natural color with artificial treatment. Some people attempt to change the appearance of coins through chemicals, polishing, or plating. These alterations generally do not create a genuine mint era and can reduce collector interest. The best advice for anyone discovering a potentially valuable 1976 cent is simple. Do not clean it. Do not polish it. Do not scratch it. Do not attempt to remove stains. Do not test it with destructive methods. Do not alter the coin in an attempt to make it look rare. Leave it in its original condition. If the coin appears unusual, place it carefully in an appropriate holder and seek expert advice. One of the most important parts of evaluating a possible error is determining whether the unusual feature occurred at the mint. This is where the distinction between a mint error and post-mint damage becomes critical. A genuine mint error occurred during production. Post-mint damage occurred after the coin left the mint. The two can sometimes look similar to an inexperienced observer. For example, a coin may have a large indentation. That indentation could be the result of a striking problem. Or it could have been caused by a hammer. A coin may have an unusual edge. That edge could be the result of a collar error. Or it could have been damaged by machinery. A coin may have strange color. That color could be related to its original composition. Or it could have been caused by chemicals. This is why professional authentication is so important. A genuine error should make sense from a manufacturing perspective. The metal flow should be consistent. The strike should show characteristics expected from the error type. The edge should support the explanation. The weight and dimensions should make sense. The design should show evidence consistent with the production process. When all of these factors come together, the possibility of a genuine error becomes much stronger. One of the most exciting errors is an off-center strike. A 1976 cent with a dramatic off-center strike can immediately capture attention. If Lincoln's portrait is pushed far toward one side and a large portion of the opposite side is blank, the error is easy to see. Collectors often consider the percentage of